Paybby is changing the way you bank by focusing on serving the communities that need it most, our communities. As a person of color, you may have experienced the fact that we are the most underbanked yet overcharged community. That's why Paybby has created a 100% free digital banking service to help build wealth and end financial unfairness. As a member of the Black and Brown community, with Paybby, you will have access to no-fee banking, a checking and savings account, FDIC insurance, early direct deposit, and have access to automatic savings tools. It's time we empower ourselves by banking better. If you want to be served at a high standard, keep your money secure, and not be overcharged, then put your trust in Paybby.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are having a wonderful day. My name is Norville Barrington from National Black MBA Metro New York Chapter. Also bccelerator Advancing Black Entrepreneurship. I want to welcome you back to Entrepreneurial Mondays, where we focus on opportunities for entrepreneurs, specifically on how we can generate transform generational wealth in our Black and Brown communities. Today, I want to introduce Hassan Miah, who is the CEO and co-founder, and founder of Paybby Bank, and I'll get into more details regarding his background and what we're going to talk about. Now, just some housekeeping rules here. For those of you who are streaming different areas, we know that we want you to contact us, and you have our contact information. That's bizdevelopment at nyblackmba.org. You can also go back to the registration where you find more information and look at the details on the various social platforms where you can contact us for questions. We have in a short period of time, we've been able to connect a number of entrepreneurs, small business owners to the resources that are needed. So in the month of March, we're going to go over our Small Business Resource Center, where you'll be able to tap into various resources on a weekly basis. In addition to that, from a chapter perspective, from National Black MBA Metro New York Chapter, this is another wonderful week, which we're going to, of course, now talk about entrepreneurship. We also have a number of different initiatives focused on recruiting for individuals who are looking for opportunities in finance. We're also have our virtual career fair that's happening this Thursday. We're also going to talk about rewriting financial literacy with our major partners, NASDAQ and Merrill Lynch, where we're going to dive into that on Wednesday. Again, Thursday is our big career fair. And we have a number of companies. And then we also have our think tank with the NFL, which I'm very happy about that we were able to pull that off. And that's going to happen this Thursday. Today, we're going to take a step into financing, and we're going to talk about entrepreneurship as it relates to what does it really mean to get funding for the PPP? What is the PPP? What is the second round of the PPP? More importantly, what is the finance industry and what's the banking industry looking like, especially as it relates to Black-owned businesses? There are about roughly 41 Black-owned businesses or credit unions with about close to about like $6.7 billion of assets. But in this industry itself, how much of us are actually getting access to the resources that we need when it comes to just personal services, whether it is checking accounts, savings accounts, access to mobile banking, and more importantly, what does this mean for the opportunities as a small business owner for the PPP? Well, we're going to dive into that with the CEO of Paybby, Hassan Miah. Hassan Miah is the founder of Paybby, and he is an expert in technology, media, and AI, blockchain, and finance. His extensive experience in China, Japan, and other parts of Asia. He's also the co-founder of Robinbee, which is a social e-commerce AI platform in the United States and in China. Formerly, he was director of investments at Intel Capital and a managing consulting partner at KPMG, working on deals in entertainment, community banking. So he's definitely well-versed to talk about this industry, and more importantly, what is he doing with his new venture, and what does it really look like in the future for us? He's an alum of University of Michigan with the BBA, and also the Stanford Graduate School of Business with an MBA, and also as a CPA as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce Hassan Miah to our broadcast. Hassan, how are you doing today?
Good. Thank you, Norville. Happy to be here.
Good, good. So we're going to dive into this because I think there's a couple different ways that we can take this conversation, but ultimately, the impact to small businesses, it can't be understated. We've seen in this time frame, since COVID has happened, we've seen a lot of businesses take a strong hit, not only as it relates to just staying afloat, but more importantly, getting the resources that are needed. We see about roughly, maybe 41% of Black businesses, Black and brown businesses close. What are you seeing aside from the impact of COVID-19 today, and what do you see going on in the future?
Well, as you point out, as a result of the pandemic, it's been devastating for small businesses overall, but particularly devastating for Black businesses. Approximately 27% of white businesses are closing as a result of COVID, but it's 41% for Black businesses. So the impact on our community, as with many things of this pandemic, is much more devastating for our people. And a good percentage of these businesses will never return. And it's more than the business, it's families, it's lives, it's communities that are being impacted.
And now when you look at it from an industry perspective, there are many industries that have been affected. Now, from what you've seen, why was the PPP created? And do you see changes, or do you see how the PPP has affected different industries in the Black and brown community?
Yeah, so the PPP was created to try to make up for the loss of employment. The unemployment rate just skyrocketed as a result of the pandemic, and it particularly hit small businesses really hard. And among them, like restaurants, they were forced to close. So unless you were considered an essential business, which unfortunately, I guess, was often limited to these large, big box businesses and grocery stores, the small community businesses were really hit, and they were not even allowed to open because of the restrictions. So that's why PPP was meant to replace the payroll, so people could still pay their employees during this devastating time.
So from an education purpose here, now in terms of the PPP, who was actually eligible for the PPP? It's just a misconception: who's eligible, who's not eligible, who's actually eligible.
So any business that had a more than 25% decline in their revenue, and as a result, they would have to lay off employees, were eligible. Okay, so it was all related to payroll, and not for anything else. And payroll means more than one thing. It's payroll relative to W-2 employees, but it also means 1099 employees, even self-employment. If you were a single employer, you still qualified if you lost a lot of business as a result of the pandemic. You just had to be able to prove that it was your business that's being impacted. But it was all about payroll replacement. That's why it's called the PPP, payroll protection plan. It wasn't about the overall business. It's not a general loan.
Now, what we've seen in this time frame is that as people try to apply, we've also seen people not being able to even be eligible to apply because of the fact that their paperwork wasn't intact. Now, one thing we didn't talk about was how important is it for companies to have their paperwork intact, and then ultimately, like, what isn't the PPP? What isn't the PPP loan for most people?
Sure. So a couple of things. Paperwork is very important. And during the first round, as all these type of programs, there were a lot of fraudsters who were just saying they had lost the payroll and all that, and they were getting money. And then there was a very high limits on the size of the business. So then you heard stories about the Shake Shacks and all those that were qualified because they had to reduce staff too because of they couldn't stay open. During the second round, they reduced the maximum size to a revenue of $2 million. So that helped support it quite a bit. But it's still all about payroll protection. It's not about other expenses and other things other than as it ties together. But it's only payroll is the driver of what qualifies you for the program. And having paperwork to prove it is also important. So.
Exactly. So when you talk about 1099s and people, let's say, doing things off the books, you're seeing a lot of companies all of a sudden not be eligible. But what are some other myths that you see in the PPP, especially when it comes to the first round, and how a lot of businesses just didn't understand and just didn't get what the PPP was?
So, and this is particularly true in our community. One is that if you have W-2 or 1099, you're fully on the tax roll, so to speak. And a lot of small businesses operate a lot more in the cash economy, so they're quite. And there's not a lot you can do about that. So that's one issue. So a number of people, it was devastating for them, but they could not prove that if these people were actually employees or people being paid for payroll. So that's a big issue that have to be solved. The bigger issue that we find, particularly among our community, is because they were worried that their payroll wasn't right or they didn't use a payroll service. The other thing, and one reason we got into it, particularly for these really small businesses, say the hairdresser at home or some of these other things, they weren't operating their business as, quote, a incorporated business or LLC or any of those things. They often, just went in business and they started paying people, right? But that works. That's totally okay. But they didn't realize it. So they might have been working out of their personal checking account and that type of thing. And even that would qualify because they were still making hard cash expense. They were still writing checks and that kind of thing to people that they could prove that were their employees. So, but many of them thought because they weren't a, quote, business and their idea of a business was, they were incorporated as a business, that they didn't qualify. And that's not true.
And so there's definitely some lessons learned. I know a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs that now come in different spaces now learning from some of these mistakes. And now we look at strategies and applying for the PPP with all these things being considered. What are some strategies to really impact and apply for the PPP prior to you even saying, look, I need the money, I have a staff? What are the best ways to go ahead and apply for the PPP and tackle this in such a way where you can be successful?
Good question. So one thing I failed to mention, a very high percentage of businesses like me are actually sole proprietorships. So again, these are people where the people they're paying is themselves. That qualifies too, because they're actually employees. They're just employer. And so many people thought if the money was going to them, they didn't qualify. But they do qualify, but it has to be for income replacement. So under the rules that were before, you had to prove that you were making money and you had, it was profitable on your Form C and that kind of thing. Those rules are being adjusted somewhat. In fact, the SBA continued to change that because they realized that a lot of people were hardworking people. I mean, maybe they were just, they had a lawn care business, but they were by themselves, right? And they still qualified. So what I suggest to everybody, the best way to find out if you qualify, there's only really one way to find out if you qualify, and that is to apply. If you apply, you have a chance. If you don't apply, your chance of getting the loan is zero. And our outreach through our Paybby outreach program, that's one of the biggest areas where we're finding people who previously thought that they didn't qualify at all, starting to apply, and lo and behold, they're getting loans.
So there's some opportunities. Again, there's the education piece. There's you have to be in it to win it,
right?
Piece. And as a CPA, you're well versed in understanding the importance of documentation. So is it, when you talk about applying, what years are we talking about for the PPP? So is it the current year? Is it the previous year? What is your best chance to make sure your documentation is on point? And if it's not, then what happens then?
So the pandemic and the decline in income is related to 2020 versus 2019. And I think it's February 15th is when it started, is the date that they use. And then you pick like an 8 or 24 week period of which you're going to calculate how many employees and what the payroll is. And so if you're a non-restaurant or non-food service business, the amount that you qualify for is 2.5 months of your payroll. Okay. And then if you're a food service business, it's 3.5 months. But it's compared to the prior year. So there've been 2 rounds of this, and it hasn't changed. So On the first round, you still have that, but you could apply again and say, you're still in the same situation because the pandemic hasn't ended. So you can apply and get that same amount of money during that time. There's actually a piece that people don't realize that outside that area in 2020, you can't double dip. That's called an employee retention credit. So there's a possibility on top when you do your tax return, in addition to getting PPP money, in order to get a tax credit too. So they've gone quite a ways to try to help pay for these devastating losses as a result of the pandemic. But again, it's 2020 compared to 2019 is the primary method that's being used to determine whether you qualify or not.
And we always advise that for those of you who are listening, make sure if there's an area that you are not familiar with, definitely go to a professional such as Hassan, who's a CPA, a person who understands exactly some of the details that you would need going forward. So definitely rely on those individuals in that space. And we also know that the PPP deadline is coming up as well. So the time frame now is not the same as round one. So what is the deadline now going into round two?
So the deadline now is March 31st. That's the bad news. The good news is there's still approximately $100 billion left. It's a lot of, and there's with that much left, I say there's a reasonable chance they'll extend it. So you're not too late. And the reason, there's still a lot of money left. A lot of people haven't done anything. Now, you mentioned if you're not sure, you should talk to CPAs or whatever, which is good because you may need paperwork. But above and beyond that, actually, what I just recommend is you go to a site like ours, or you go to your lender if you have one, and just apply. And if you're missing anything, they'll tell you. That's required because they only get paid if they have the documentation to send to the SBA and get approved. So it's not like you're in a penalty box if you walk in there and you don't have something or you're missing something. There's no a meter that's running. Like you have to apply, and within a certain number of days you have to send them everything, or you don't qualify at all. That's not an issue.
So let's stay on that, because I think I'm glad you said that. That's so important. That brings us to Paybby, and it talks about, we're going to talk about the application. We're going to talk about what Paybby is. But as a founder, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, this was birthed out of something very, very important. So before we get into the application process, before we go into Paybby, let's talk about what you've seen in your career and the creation of Paybby, and why this is going to help many people in this process, and not only for the PPP, but other things that we're going to talk about later on.
Oh, sure. So, our community is the most underbanked. We have the least proportion of people who have a bank account. If we can get a loan, we tend to pay more. Black wealth is only 10% of white wealth, largely because of historical systemic racism. We weren't, allowed to get the FHA loans or whatever. And if we did, we had to pay higher rates. So there's this huge legacy problem that we've always had. And then you pile on top of that this ignorance, right? Where people, because of that, they don't trust the system. They don't actually, feel like they can participate. And often they will walk into these big banks, and the banks will look at them and assume that they weren't very profitable, so they moved them to the back of the line. They'd be last to be served. So that was the impetus behind me, starting Paybby Bank, and also getting into this program, because I noticed a lot of people thought they didn't qualify, and their ignorance was costing them money. And when there is an opening here, and we can do something about it.
So now, what is the application process like? So now people go on the Paybby site. So you go to paybby.com, right? Now, what do people do once they get on your site? And walk us through the steps of what happens then.
Okay, sure. So to be clear, so we only SBA qualified lenders actually submit to the SBA. So we work with banks. Here in the tri-state area, we work with Carver Federal Savings Bank, the second largest Black bank in America. And so we're a marketing agent. And what we do is that we have a software platform where people can enter their application, and we have a some intelligence in this software where once they answer the question, we give them an idea whether they're on the path to qualification. And so they can quickly, within a few minutes, determine whether or not they have a decent chance of getting a loan. And it's not, we're not collecting all the data and all that, but if you're looking to get a loan and you have no employees and you don't, whatever reason, it'll tell you, okay, your chances aren't that good. Once you finish the application process on Paybby and you hit submit, it's automatically transmitted to the lender. And the lender puts it in, but they already have much of the data populated. So then they will ask, and our platform can also pull data. Like if you are a more sophisticated business and you're on QuickBooks or some other type of accounting platform, you can integrate, you can link that in, and it can pull your 941 or your payroll data. But if not, it goes to the lender, and then the lender completes the process. If there are any questions, either the lender will contact you or we will contact you. We will find out, or if your application for whatever reason is not looking sufficient, our customer service people will try to help you figure out what you need to do to be totally qualified. So that's the core. And as a result of our platform and our relationship with lenders, we can help get a lot more of these small businesses the loans that they're looking for.
So essentially, when we talk about the application process, you're pretty much a part of the underwriting process and helping accelerate the opportunities for small businesses to actually then go through the process faster, see what's missing, and ultimately get to a place where they see if they qualify or not.
Yeah, underwriting is a kind of a technical term, so I probably wouldn't use that term in the finance business. But we'll say pre-underwriting. We're application process where we go through, because the final step is the bank who's on the hook for saying it's legitimate. They have to do the final underwriting. But as a result of going through our platform, they have much more the data they need in order to accelerate the underwriting and get the loan through. So, and this compares to the first round, and institutions like that we're working with. They had an overwhelming number of loans, right? They only did maybe 10 loans a day, and it went from 10 to 100. So all of a sudden, they needed to, scale up. So our platform accelerated that, so they could take loan applications that used to take days or many hours to minutes, and that allowed them to process many more loans at a much faster rate, which helped everyone.
And I think that's awesome, because ultimately, we need, this process is not an easy process for most people to really understand, to really comprehend. So you definitely help in that process. Now, while you are serving as a marketing agent, you also are a bank as well. Now, you did make an acquisition recently. So talk about Paybby as it relates to the importance of 2021 and the acquisition of Wicked.
Okay, sure. So a big picture. There's $20 trillion with a T banking assets in America. Less than $5 billion in assets are held by Black banks. So we are essentially excluded from the banking system, which is the lifeblood of our economy. So, and that is a key reason why, we don't get access to loans, why we can't have banking accounts, we don't trust them. And money is the blood supply of our economy. So when I studied this situation, I said, well, how can you grow a bank? Because all these banks are very small, and a small bank has a hard time becoming a big bank, particularly with $5 billion for the whole industry. I'm not talking about any given Black bank. I'm saying all of them in aggregate is 0.03% of the total industry in America. But now we're at a different point. There's something, because of financial technology, there's what they call neobanks. And what Wicked is that we're a bank and we sit on top of a traditional bank, but we have the ability to access all those services through the mobile phone. And through the mobile phone, we can instantly offer a national banking service, which means that we instantly are scalable and accessible to anyone in all 50 states. And that's not really possible with a traditional bank. So that's why we acquired it. And we're seeing, I call right now, we're at our Amazon moment in banking, where this traditional industry is being disrupted by technology. It's changing everything. So the goal of Paybaby and the Wicked app is to allow anyone to get a bank account. You can get a bank account within 5 minutes. It's totally free. It's free check-in. It has saving tools, and it has other things. It has financial planning tools already built in. So whenever you spend anything, it categorizes it for you. It tells you how you spent your money, so you can start seeing if you overspent on a certain, buying too much coffee at the expense of food for your kids or those type of things. So all these things are fundamental change.
So what we're going to do is we're going to play a short little video on Wicked, so our viewers can get a better understanding of what Wicked is. And I think this is going to be something that people are going to enjoy.
Part of Paybaby. Today, I will show you how to link up your other checking and savings accounts to your Wicked bank account. You can click on Plaid and link up with your other bank accounts. To link up your account, you will input your username and password for the financial institution you are attempting to connect. You can log in, or if you have your facial ID set up, you can log into Plaid using your facial ID. Once you link up, you can add money to your Wicked bank account and start using for your purchases. As you can see, you're able to see all your accounts in one place so that you can keep track of your money. Also, you will get a monthly Wicked statement each month in your Wicked bank app. So what are you waiting for? Start banking.
All right. And our app is completely free. And what it does is there are millions of people who don't have a bank account. All of a sudden, they can have an account in a matter of minutes. And it's an FDIC insured account, just like going to Chase or Citibank or anything else.
So now most of us at a certain point in time looked at online banking as, what is this thing? Many years ago, there was the ING account. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, of course, you know about that. And many people said, you know what, we can't see the bank. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening was the industry ended up changing. And, companies like ING, which then turned into Capital One, people start being more familiar with these banks. So now, when you look at opportunities for banking as it relates to direct deposits, as to now opportunities for individuals not to necessarily go to the cash check location, there's this opportunity. So talk about how that's going to change how our community is going to now use our banks. And of course, our community is now using this on a frequent basis. Everyone has a smartphone. So now it's about changing the behavior. So talk about changing the behavior, how that's going to change our community.
Yeah, so first and foremost, a lot of the bank branches have disappeared from our community. Like where I'm originally from Detroit. I mean, it's become a banking wasteland. So it's like a major trip to get to a bank. But as you pointed out, Nova, everyone has a mobile phone. And once you realize the power of that phone in your hand, and you can do everything with it, it's transformative. And then when you also realize that app tells you everything you need, and it can help you with all the things related to your financial situation, that's transformative. And so, and then we offer other things. If you connect your payroll account, we can pay you up to 2 days early. Because the reality is these payroll services companies use, they actually get funded early, but they keep the money. But we can pull that money and you can get the money early. The other thing is we avoid overdraft fees and other things. So the value proposition of mobile banking is way higher. And that is why, for all you MBAs out there, if you look at the economic proposition of neobanking and the valuations and other things of these neobanks, they're skyrocketing relative to regular banks because the investment community realizes once people see that mobile banking is so much more powerful than traditional banking, they're going to gain share dramatically. And it's time that share comes to us for our community.
Absolutely, and I definitely understand that. So in regards to opportunities for the Black and Brown, when it comes to the Black and Brown community as it relates to those opportunities, can you talk about introducing new banking solutions?
Yeah, so we have right now, it's a free deposit account. It's another interesting thing about the business model of a neobank. In a traditional bank, they have monthly fees and other things because when they hold your deposit, it costs them money because of all the branch operations and that type of thing. In the case of a neobank, the business model is slightly different. And every time you deposit money, when you use your debit card, it doesn't cost you anything, but we actually get a fee every time interchange fee. It's a special law that allows for the growth of these kind of institutions. That's very beneficial. But the other thing that's coming along, and this is where you mentioned earlier, we're doing AI and that type of thing, or artificial intelligence, is that our app, if you use it, it already categorizes your spending and other things. And so we can start to figure out how you spend your money and where you're spending it smart and maybe not so good. And then the next phase is we can start helping you manage your money in a way. So it's very common for people to be advised, oh, you need to do more, take more financial education classes and all that, which is all good. You should do that. But the future of banking and with apps like the Wicked Paybby app is that it will start to figure out ways in which to help you do better. It can start telling you, do you want me to automatically save this amount? Do you want me to automatically take your extra $50 and put it into a crypto account, and then do you want me to sweep it back into cash so that you always have the amount that you need? Do you want me to stop you from paying and making stupid purchases that you don't want to do, but you forget? And we could tell you, of course, you could override it. So the future of banking is not just you write a check, you get cash, and you got to do everything yourself. It's going to change.
Now we've seen this. We've seen opportunities or things that are very similar as relates to how we look at our mobile usage. As of late, we've seen the apps that you're on, how many the percentage you're using on it from a weekly basis. So just so I understand here, not only are you bringing financial literacy into our community, but you're also now talking about the strategies behind the literacy. So now here's the literacy part, but this is what is actually happening. You're spending too much money. You are spending X amount of dollars in this particular area. Based on number of settings, I can now kind of preset and decide ultimately what type of advice I should get. Is that what we're getting at?
It's going to start helping you do better for you. So, right now you have to sort of have the discipline to do all these types of things. And then, if you want to figure out how you're spending, you'd actually have to pull your statement and start adding it up and all that. Already in Wicked, we start categorizing. We already help you figure these things out in a very convenient way. We have automatic saving tools, right? Where it automatically sweeps your account. It's automatic payment tools. All these things is the future of banking, and that's what we're incorporating. And then you can also have piggy bank, so to speak, where you can, even when you save, it could save. I'm saving to buy a house, or I'm saving to buy a car, and that all can be put in what I call different pockets or wallets, so to speak. So that changes everything, because right now in your normal big bank account, you have a checking account, and you hope. And then here's another thing, like in Texas, was a big thing that just happened. All of a sudden, because of the power outage, some people had bills of $10,000 or whatever, which was crazy. But people had auto pay, so they automatically got screwed.
Oh, wow. Yes, I didn't think that's something that I did hear, but I didn't hear about the auto pay act, and that's something that's a reason why sometimes I don't do auto pay for certain things, because if you have a bill that fluctuates.
Exactly. So the whole future of all these things is it can be improved with artificial intelligence, and that's what we're about. And then the other thing is, given that we have a broad spectrum within our community, we're very focused on other things that could be very helpful. For example, on those who lose their job and end up with SNAP payments or food stamps, so to speak, they're issued a debit card, and that debit card it can be used for food, but it can't be used for tobacco or alcohol, right? Well, there's no reason you can't use the same card, or you can't use a Wicked app. This is something we're going to launch, and it's smart enough to know you have $500, but $100 you can't use on alcohol and tobacco. It's in a different pocket. But when you go to the store clerk doesn't know. It looks the same. So you don't have to walk and hand them, oh, you're giving me food stamps, or you're doing that. It's, it will know for you. It helps you manage. And that's the future of these type of things. The other thing in healthcare is another big, we disproportionately, dying and going to the hospital more than 2 times the rate. So health insurers are coming up with what they call healthy rewards, where they're paying their patients to have better habits, like showing up for their checkups and doing other type of things, and then they'll give them cash. So all those types of things are other money pockets that could be integrated into a smart banking app, such as Wicked. So it totally changes the game. And then the last area within our community, which is a big part of what we're doing, is working with the local business, where we could immediately integrate in, seeing what our local corner stores, which ones have their pricing that may be just as good as Amazon, and what their service is. So we want to help circulate money within the community and provide the tools for local businesses to demonstrate how they can help the consumers in their neighborhood, so we can maintain community control of our resources and recycle the money. So as part of that, we're actually adding, even on the other side, we're adding a business version of that, an intelligent business account, which is as a result of the PPP. Many of them say, "Oh, we really like this, but can you give us that too?" I'm like, okay, and then the banks we're talking to like it also, because they say many of these are small Black businesses. As they reemerge, they're very good, but they need better banking tools themselves. So they're very excited about smart banking that's possible with a Wicked by Paybby.
So now, we've covered the PPP in terms of, hey, if you need to apply, this is the right platform. Go to paybby.com, PAYBBY.com, where you'll be able to apply for the PPP. The deadline is March the 31st. Put your documents in. If there's something that's missing, the system will let you know. You cannot be in it. You cannot win it if you're not in it. You got to be in it to win it. So ultimately, apply. Go to the website right now. We've also just covered the Wicked app, and we also talk about Paybby as it relates to not only the services, but also the opportunity for Wicked for different uses. So for all the things that we're doing in our community, for everything that we are doing with our app, a lot of this has to be about change mentality, about, well, who's this company? What's this company about? What makes Paybby different than the other financial institutions? Because that's something that people are going to say, well, how do I really know? What's so different? What is the essence of this, not only company, but also the services that provide? You mentioned a couple of them, but I want you to, dive in a little deeper there so we can really get into that.
Okay, so there's two parts to it. So traditional banks are starting to offer some of the things we're talking about, but they're still about collecting fees. They collect $100 billion in excess fees from the Black and brown community, overdraft fees. They're always looking for the gotchas because it's so profitable. So then the minute you know that, or they charge a monthly minimum fee. So you don't ever have to worry about that with us. Now, we have competitors in the market, and they also have the free account and all that. But there's one reason that many people in our community can't even get a bank account, because maybe in their history, they bounced a few checks or whatever, and they're always more harsh on us, right? And so they can't get an account. So we're also adding technology. They call it KYC, or Know Your Customer, and we're applying AI to demonstrate that these are good customers, and we can look at the data behind them and qualify a lot more people than the other guys. And the other guys, because they're not focused on our community, they're not thinking about that. And the same way that the other thing is on scoring and those kind of, it's really data analysis and data science. And so that's another area that we're highly focused on. And then I would add the third area, which is equally important, which is transparency. And transparency is one reason is a lack of trust, because you find all these services and they come on, they're like for our community and blah, blah, blah. And then later you learn you got ripped off, right? or you're worried, okay, now what's the catch? How you going to get me, right? And our goal is to always be super transparent, explain everything, why it's better, how it's cheaper, how we compare to others. And that's a critical part, because we're highly focused on supporting our community. And you know what? The beauty of it is, you can provide, because the Black and brown community is what, 100 million people, but it's the fastest growing segment of the U.S. population. I met with a major major bank, run by, all white. And they told me the only segment of the U.S. that is shrinking is white America. And they said the segment you're focused on is the fastest growing. And we need to figure out how to get to them. Will you help us? Right? So what that means is that we can offer these services that are much better for the people, and it still works. There's a business there.
Now, there's some other also benefits with using the portal itself. So I think you mentioned some of them, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the services are free for the consumer. So what else services should we be looking at in the future, and even currently right now?
Okay, so the one is that there's a savings account, and the more you save, we can increase your interest rate. We give all the way up to 10% interest rate. The next thing the next thing we'll be adding is automatic sweeping, where you can automatically put it in investment accounts. We're even going to add cryptocurrency, so people think that's hot. So, but we'll make these features in such a way that we're going to, we don't want people gambling like crazy. So we'll put controls, or they could they'll probably have some choice, but we'll make it where they can do it. And then when the money is needed, it sweeps it back in. So automatic savings features. And then the other thing is integration in with the local community, where we will give transparency on better ways to use their money and how they could how they could use Paybby to do it. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to have at some point, and we're going to also integrate in things like children's wallets and other things. Instant pay, that's another big feature. A lot of people, like the Uber drivers and all that, they get paid in a week and a half, but we know what their pay is. So we're going to go. We're adding where you can get paid by the day. Okay. Get paid an hour. There's no reason all these delays in payment are actually, to some extent, are based on integrated banking system, and that's in our roadmap. And then the last one is transmittal system between people who have relatives in Latin America or Africa and all that. That will be added. Mm-hmm.
So let me get to some questions here. A couple of them have to do with partnerships with banks and things of that nature. So if I understand this correctly, I have a question here. If I'm applying for a loan to PPP, am I going to only get the banks within my local area, or is it going to go further than that, just to get a perspective?
Okay, so if you go to paybby.com, we're national. So as I mentioned, we use Carver Bank here, but we also partner with other banks. So you could be anywhere in the 50 states, and we'll send it to the right bank.
Perfect.
So it's the whole country is covered.
Perfect. If you're a freelancer, if you're a current freelancer, would you qualify for the PPP payment underneath the PPP loans?
Yes, you do. You totally qualify. You just need employment, and a lot of it is maybe how you do your tax return. But we can, the bank or lender, you just fill it out. In fact, we had a number of freelancers who have successfully gotten PPP loans.
Now, as it relates to my business, business banking, I think this question was answered, but in the future, business banking will be available for customers, correct?
Yes, mobile big business banking is a big area, particularly with small businesses, because the management tools, the cash tools that previously were used by big companies that had a staff are now becoming all available on your mobile phone. And we're already in the process of adding that. Okay.
Now, some of the questions that I have here were answered already. Now, I also know that, with the acquisition of Wicked and all the great things you're doing, there's also some additional announcements that you have here. So what else can we expect from Paybby in the next couple of weeks and so?
Okay, so the other thing is we're about being the people's bank, and so we're a startup. But we are going to launch an equity crowdfunding. Equity crowdfunding is where you can invest in the stock of Paybby, and it's a regular filing with the SEC. It allows anyone to invest as little as, in our case, we made it $147. There's a reason we made it that number. It ties to our number of shares, and then on up. And we're really excited about it. Look at our site, and but it's something that we're raising up to $1 million is allowed under the new crowdfunding rules. So I hope you will look at joining in on our crowdfunding. And then for all the Black businesses out there, we also are looking for affiliates to help us grow this network of people that bank among our community, because we support our community. So between that and equity crowdfunding, you can participate in the growth of Black and Brown banking.
And to mention your chapter of National Black MBA and bccelerator, we will be supporting this opportunity as well. So there'll be additional announcements. We know that there will be some crowdfunding events virtually that will be in the next upcoming weeks and months to come. So look out for that on various platforms. For those of you who are on Clubhouse, you're definitely going to see a lot of Paybby on Clubhouse. Shout out to all the Clubhouse members here, and also all the other areas as well, especially our partners and things of that nature. So there's a couple things here before we close here. What are some lasting comments you want people to remember, not only about the PPP, but why exactly Paybby is here? And then secondly, for you personally, how has this journey transformed you individually, as looking at the industry, looking at COVID-19 and this pandemic, and how has this changed your outlook on life, and more importantly, opportunities for Black and Brown community?
Yeah, maybe I'll start from there. I mean, I was born and raised in Detroit, and I grew up in a first college graduate, that type of thing. My grandparents immigrated from Mississippi and all that. And then I thought when I went to college, our whole people, we were moving forward. So when I learned, after George Floyd, that we were only 10% away, it deeply hurt me. And I think, why are we still in this position? So that was the bad news. The good news is, as a result, it was clear that banking is so critically important, and it's always been important in our community. Many people don't know Frederick Douglass himself was a bank president. And so it's something that we've known throughout our history. So that is something that we've got to participate in this industry if we're ever going to get the parity as a people. The good news is, because of technology, it is now possible. And that's really exciting. And then the other thing is, everything is open now. So it's possible that we can all come together and we can change things more than we have before.
So I want to thank you so much for this time. For those of you, again, who are viewing on various platforms, we're going to send some additional information, not only about Paybby as it relates to the PPP, but also Wicked as well. And in addition to that, you're also going to see additional information regarding the the equity crowdfunding opportunities. So I want to thank you so much for this time. Congratulations to you and this venture. And we look forward to promoting it and to getting this word out to our community, and how we are transforming generational wealth through finance. And this is a perfect opportunity as we talk about financial literacy, not only in our communities, but ultimately what it means for our generations to come. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nova. Appreciate your time.
So we want to thank Paybby, all the great people at Paybby, the team there. Miranda, thank you so much for getting us connected. And this is a great segue into the week that's to come. We're going to have additional information in regards to some of the events that we have this week from National Black MBA Metro New York chapter. This week, we are going to be focusing on financial literacy with NASDAQ and Merrill Lynch, which is going to really highlight the foundations of financial literacy from adolescence to adulthood. And then you're also going to have opportunities to understand the impacts to industries in the finance industry with HSBC. This Thursday, we're going to have Wednesday and Thursday, both double hitters. So Wednesday, we have a financial literacy event. On Thursday, we're going to be focusing on careers with a virtual career fair. For those of you who have not applied, and those of you who are looking for opportunities in various areas, whether it's fintech, finance, whether it's traditional tech engineering, cybersecurity, marketing, accounting, all the different areas there. Our virtual career fair is a place that you want to apply for. So we have a number of companies there. It's free. and we want you to have access to these companies. This is actually one-on-one interviews with recruiters from various companies for those of you who are looking to transition and or looking for career opportunities on a local or national level. This Thursday, we have our career fair. The nightcap is with the NFL, which is our NFL think tank. We want to thank all our good people at the NFL. This is a good opportunity for small businesses and entrepreneurs to connect with the NFL as it relates to opportunities regarding supply diversity and other opportunities that will help our communities partner with the NFL to look at new opportunities going forward. Again, my name is Norville Barrington on behalf of Andrew Hamilton, our great chapter president, all our great executive board and our directors. Again, my name is Norville Barrington from the Metro New York chapter, VP of Communications, and also the founder and the managing partner of bccelerator, Advancing Black Entrepreneurship, Accelerating Black Entrepreneurship. We want to thank you so much for this time. For those of you who are looking to get more information, we're going to send some more information regarding Paybby and other opportunities for you to get involved in this good opportunity. So thank you so much. We look forward to additional announcements. March the 11th, look out for our Women's History event with our partnership with the Dallas Fourth Ward chapter. So looking forward to that. We're going to be celebrating our women as they should in regards to entrepreneurship and small business opportunities. Those of you who are looking to transfer from entrepreneurship to entrepreneurship opportunities. We've seen with Hassan how he's been able to, leverage his career in corporate America, and now from the entrepreneurship side, we're going to have a lot of successful women who are going to talk about their journey, more importantly, the strategies behind it. Look out for the real estate series with Vanetta Hawkins and Larissa Longchamp. We look forward to announcing the real estate series, which is going to launch, which is going to be our investment real estate series. Our supply diversity and government procurement expo is coming up. That's going to be in the month of May. So look out for details. Registration is going to start in March. So want to make sure that you are available for that as well. Look, here at the Metro New York chapter, National Black MBA, our goal here is to make sure that all the needs of our members are taken care of, whether it's lifestyle, education, leadership, professional development, entrepreneurship, are all being met. So we thank you so much from a national level, from all of our chapters. We just here to support you as a member. So thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to connecting with you this week, and look out for a number of announcements, especially for those of you who are in the university relations camp. There are a number of internship opportunities that we're going to announce for you as well. There's so much I can say, but thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. For those of you who are in Houston, we want to thank George Santillas, who is going to tee up our Up Mixer in Houston. Look out for details regarding the Up Mixer, which is the biggest urban professional mixer in the United States. I'm going to say that. So look out for details on that as well. So look out for George Santillas and look out for his information as well. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Again, thank you so much for the great people at Paybby, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.